Bismillah wa salatu wassalam ala Rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum everyone. This is teacher Sanat speaking. I welcome you all in this new lesson. We're going to talk about solving quadratic equations by graphing. So today's method is graphing. Let's start. Copy this question on your notebook, please. This is the equation we're going to talk about and we need to graph it. In case if you remember in 8.3, step number 1 is find the axis of symmetry. The axis of symmetry depending on A and B, so which is B over 2A, any given negative sign for the answer. So A should be 1 and B should be 4, and the answer will be -2. Take that answer and substitute it in the equation to get the y. Once you get the y, we get the vertex. Pause the video, solve it, and then you can continue. Well done. Was that your graph? I hope so. Here's the vertex, -2 and -1. So in question number 2, we solved the first part, which is the vertex. But what about the zeros? Remember, zeros are the x-intercepts, is where the graph meets the x-axis. And here we have them at x equals -3 and x equals -1. Next, I want to download the VL reflection sheets. This worksheet, we're going to talk about the 3 levels or the 3 phases that we're going to go through this lesson. What is the goals? What are the goals in this lesson? What progress we made in the previous lessons to get to this lesson? And what are the next steps that we're going to take, or what can we do to make things better? We're going to talk about qualities of good learners at ASCS. How can we implement these in our lesson, solving quadratic equations by graphing? Go on with the learning intentions. Remember, لكل امرئ ما نوى. So that's what we're going to talk about. If you have the good intention, if you focus on it, you will never get lost. You will just keep on the track. After this lesson, students will be able to solve quadratic equations by graphing. As simple as that. The success criteria that we're going to have, name it, is to rewrite quadratic equations as quadratic functions in the standard form. Explain it, that I can find the axis of symmetry and the vertex of a quadratic equation. Connect it. I can solve quadratic equations by graphing. So as you can see, to go to our goal, we need to go through these stages first. At the end, teach it. We're going to apply real-life applications related to the topic. What is a quadratic equation? Every quadratic function has a related quadratic equation. An equation should be written as a form ax squared plus bx plus c equals to 0. A and b and c are real numbers, and a should not be equal to 0. Do you think why? Do you know why it should not be 0? Write these in the comments, please. When writing a quadratic function as it's related to the quadratic equation, you just replace the y with 0. So that's what we do. If you have a y, or if you have a f of x, you just replace it with a 0. Remember, when are we solving, we're looking for x-intercepts. X-intercept means y0. Trivial, صح? Let's go on. And again, I want to remind you, this is one way to solve quadratic equation. We're going to have a lot of ways, inshallah, and you will choose the best way that you can solve with. But this is one of the ways to solve quadratic equations. And here, a table to help you with some steps. You'll find it in the book as well. And you will find this presentation on Edmodo as well. You can download it and use it. Step 1, write the related function. Step 2, graph the related function. Step 3, find the zeros of the related function. Keep this in mind, and let's start. Example 1. I have this wonderful, lovely equation, and it's so pretty that the other side is 0. So what should I do? Step 1, as we said, write the related function. So that 0 should be a y. Correct, a y. Once we have it as a y, we go on and find a, b, c. As you can see, A is 2. B is not there. As you can see, there's no X. There was no X here. So the B is 0, and the negative 18 is the C. Step 2, graph the function. How do we graph the function again? Who can remind me? Yes, it's just like 8.3. We find the axis of symmetry. We find the vertex. We get two other points. How we can get two other points? We just pick two x's and substitute to find the y's. So we pick, for example, 2 and 3. Substitute the 2, the y will be negative 10. Substitute the 3, the y will be 0. What if another student pick, for example, negative 1 and 7? You will get the same exact graph as long as the axis of symmetry is correct and the vertex is correct. Now let's graph. After we graph them, we go to step 3. So again, here's everything mentioned on the graph. We go to step 3, which is defining the zeros. I have to go look for the x-axis, and look for the intercepts. As you can see, by chance, I got one of them, which is 3, and the other one will be negative 3, and that will be in step 3, which is 3 and negative 3. How are you going to check? Just pick one of the zeros, 3 or negative 3. Substitute it in the equation. The equation should be true. True means the other side is 0. Let's go to the next example. I want to remind you, if it's too fast for you, you can pause the video at any moment. Here's an equation, but the other side is not a 0. And I know you're smarties, you know how to do it. What do you need to do? We just take the negative 2x squared the other side. Or in here in the book, they just took everything to the other side and we kept the negative 2x squared on one side. Will it be the same? Yes, it will be the same. Go on and give it a try. Step 2, graph the function. Same steps. It feels like everything repeating itself, right? What can you see on this graph? How many x-intercepts do we have? It's only one, right? So that's going to be 0. So that's step 3 and graph. Step 3 is we find the zeros, and as you can see, it's only 3. How do we check? We substitute again, and you can use tools. Let's go to the check it out example 1. Copy this equation on your notebooks and solve it. Pause the video. Once you're done, you can continue. So step number 1 again is to write the related function. Here's the function, as simple as that. When you want to move the 2x squared to the other side, you notice that you already have an x squared, so we combine alike terms. If we want to take the 2x squared to the other side, it will be negative. So that's why let's choose to keep them positive and take all terms to the other side. Again, this is not a rule. You can do it and go with the negative sign, just like the previous example. But I told you both ways will work, so let's try one. If you want, you can practice with the other one. Next is to graph the function. A method, we're going to use the axis of symmetry, the vertex, the y-intercept. As you can see, it's not that much affecting the y-intercept, but here, look how many zeros do we have. We only have one 0, which is at x equals negative 4. How do we check? We substitute it again. Did you get the answer? Write your comments. Go to the next example, applications. Let's read the applications together. A frog jumps straight up from the ground. The quadratic function f of t equals negative 16t squared plus 12t models the frog's height above the ground. After t seconds, about how long is the frog in the air? In the air means from the ground to the ground. Okay? Yeah, let's start. What's the first step? And here we just need to explain that when you get to the ground, then the height is 0. And when you start from the ground, the height is 0. So step number one is to write the related equation. Here's the function. We just take the f of t and we make it 0, which is the y. Next is to graph it. You can use a calculator if you want. You can go to online websites, graph it, or you can just simply make a table and use the other methods. As you can see here, it will really help you to have a calculator, a graphing calculator, because the number will be in decimals and fractions. And you know your fraction Felix, and you love them. But sometimes when you use a calculator, it will help you a lot. That we have to conclude it. We have to write it down that the frog spent 0.75 seconds in the. Check it out. Pause the video, read the example, and go try solve it. Now we're going to talk about dolphin jumps out of the water, and the quadratic function is negative 16x squared plus 32x. Same old thing. Let's write the related and then graph it. You can use a graphing calculator again just to make your life easier. Now, as you can see, this is the start and this is the end. So it appears that the dolphin stayed out of the water for 2 seconds. Okay. Now, here's the check it out. Here's the check of the check it out. We just substitute the 2 and the answer should be correct. Now I want to leave you with the lesson quiz. Copy these questions on your notebook, try to solve them by yourself, and write me your comments and answers in the class discussions, inshallah. And if you have any question, you can post your question, inshallah, and I will help you. Thank you and see you inshallah next lesson. Assalamu alaikum.